Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we have a ton to cover on today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. The McAfee Show was in Latrobe. We'll be breaking down everything that quarterback Aaron Rodgers had to say on that show today, some interesting points. Then we'll get into the first day of padded practice in Latrobe, where I'm going to be breaking down my 16 notes. I've got a ton to take away from this practice, guys. I can't wait to discuss it with you later in today's show. But listen, man, McAfee really didn't disappoint in Latrobe today. The Yinzers completely showed out. It was a fantastic crowd. You could feel the energy. And if that show, if you were watching it today, didn't get you excited for the start of the Steelers 2025 season, nothing is going to. So if you are pumped like we are here on Steelers Talk for the start of this season, click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you're feeling the energy here in Steelers Nation. So today, the Pat McAfee Show was in Latrobe at Steelers training camp. Of course, the crowd was incredible. The line was out the wazoo, early this morning to see McAfee and crew, and he had a whole slew of guests from the Pittsburgh Steelers. First, they had T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward up there. Then quarterback Aaron Rodgers went up there. Mike Tomlin had a really good interview as well. Danny Smith, the special teams coordinator, got his word in there as well. And then Omar Khan, the con artist, also got interviewed by McAfee and the boys. But today, to start today's show, I want to kind of focus on what quarterback Aaron Rodgers had to say during that show today, because he had some very interesting things to say about both head coach Mike Tomlin and then also offensive coordinator Arthur Smith and how he's acclimating himself to Art's offense. He starts with head coach Mike Tomlin here, where he says Mike T is the man. Any hate, disrespect, and the ilk is completely and utter bullshit. From day one that we talked on the phone in the offseason, I was never talking to a head coach. I was talking to a friend. I respected the hell out of that. I have crazy respect for him. The way that he leads the room, the way that he talks in the team meetings, the way he is at practice. The surprise has been just what a great dude he is, what a great leader he is, on top of what I already expected, which was already high, based off what I thought from afar. He's the type of guy that every great coach makes you want to play for him. And what I mean is you care so deeply about the person, you don't want to let him down. At no point during the conversations during the offseason, which were weekly at least, did I ever feel like I was talking to a coach who needed something from me. Like, I need you to give me this, give me that, give me an answer. It was like you were talking to an old friend. So listen, man, say what you will about Coach Tomlin, but the players love the guy. I mean, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys that have seen everything in this league. They know what good coaching looks like. They know what kind of phony leadership looks like as well. And Mike Tomlin is the real deal when it comes to leadership. Now, there's other areas in Coach T's profile that you can look at and say maybe he's not the best team builder, maybe his team building philosophy, which is defense first, isn't really acclimated to the modern day NFL. You can say maybe he's not the best game manager, but people saying that Mike Tomlin's vision and his voice in the locker room has gone stale just don't know Mike Tomlin, doesn't understand his leadership style, because he is one of the most magnetic leaders in all of sports, and he has been for the better part of 2 decades. Then Rodgers talked about his relationship with offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, and this is what he had to say about Art and his offense. There's not my own playbook and Arthur's, it's Arthur's playbook. I'm finding ways within it to add a little stuff here and there. He's the opposite of rigid. He wants to do right by the team, and whatever the best scheme is for the guys that he's got, he's going to implement that. And listen, guys, people talking about and people being worried about Rodgers trying to come in and impose, quote-unquote, his offense onto Arthur Smith. Anybody that's been watching knows that this is Arthur Smith's offense. Rodgers is under center a lot. There's a lot of play action. There's going to be a lot of heavy personnel sets, just like Arthur Smith has really always run. But as Rodgers says, Arthur Smith is very, open and fluid to adapting to his quarterback strengths and to his personnel strengths. We saw that last year with Russell Wilson, where they did a lot more spread stuff and shotgun stuff as the season went on to try and play to Russell Wilson's strengths, even though that's not necessarily what Arthur Smith has typically done in his coaching career. So it definitely seems like Rodgers is trying to implement some of his things, but it's a cooperative effort. The fact that, people are trying to make this a Rodgers versus Smith thing is silly. They're working together to try and build the best offense possible. Also on Arthur Smith and how he's acclimating to Arthur's offense here, Rodgers said, as much as I have a good feel for the offense, I'm not what I would call an expert of the offense yet. I've become an expert when you break the huddle and you can see the picture in your mind, and every now and then the picture is still a little fuzzy. So listen, man, you can tell at practice that Rodgers is still not all the way there yet, especially because he's going up against arguably the best defense in the National Football League this year. The offense does need to catch up, and Rodgers, like he says, he's not fully there yet where he sees that picture in his mind pre-snap every single time, and he's still a little bit fuzzy, but that's why you work through these kinks in camp, and that's why you do the work in training camp so that by the end of camp you are firing on all cylinders so you can start the season on the right foot when this team plays the New York Jets in Week 1. But I am confident that they're going to get there at the end of the day. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in NFL history, and I think that a couple more weeks in camp we're going to be seeing Aaron Rodgers and this offense move the football through the air more effectively than they have maybe in these first 5 or 6 practices. So fill in the blank for me down there in the comment section. The Steelers will have a top blank offense in the NFL this season with Aaron Rodgers under center. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our new sponsor here on Steelers Talk, Ethos. While I'm talking about our sponsor today, go down there in the comment section and let me know how you think the Steelers offense will perform here in 2025. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Ethos. And guys, the summer before I started here at Chat Sports, my family lost my late grandfather. And as you tend to do when you lose a loved one, you begin to think about your own mortality and what could happen and what would happen to the people dependent on you if something were to happen. And with today's sponsor, Ethos, your family is protected. Cassie and I are getting married soon, and shortly after that, I imagine we'll buy a house and start having kids. If something were to happen to me, I want the last thing the people I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills, so I trust Ethos to keep them protected. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required, and you just answer a few health questions to get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos today. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily to get your free quote today. A big shout out to Ethos for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. So now, moment you guys have been waiting for here. Of course, yesterday's practice gets rained out. Today, the first day of padded practice. So let's get into our Wednesday practice report here, guys. And it was pretty electric, if I do say so myself. First thing, first matter of business here, Broderick Jones. The big question was he going to dress today? And was he going to participate in team drills? He was out there in pads, and he was working in individual periods, but he was not working during the team drill. So he was a limited participant today. We will see tomorrow if he can put the pads back on and participate in the 11-on-11 drills during the team periods. And then another person that did not participate in team drills today and was a limited member was Captain Cam Hayward. Now, some people are speculating that he might be injured or something like that. I don't think that's anywhere near the case. I think he's perfectly fine. And I think that the reason why Cam Hayward was not participating in team drills today is because head coach Mike Tomlin, wants to give his veteran kind of some rest there and wants to save some of the tread on the tires. Cam is getting up there in age. And then also, B, he understands the type of player Cam Hayward is. He doesn't necessarily need to see how he practices every single day. And it also gives more opportunities to guys like Derek Harmon, the rookie out of Oregon. It gives more opportunities to guys like Keanu Benton, who's still a young player looking to break out in this league. So I'm not too worried about Cam Hayward, going over to the side, doing his own individual work today and being a limited participant in today's practice. And then there's some interesting formations that Arthur Smith is utilizing in this offense, specifically in the walkthroughs that we noticed at practice today. First of all, we'll start with the 4 personnel, which is 0 running backs, 1 wide receiver, and 4 tight ends on the field. Now, you might be saying, how does this really work without a running back out there? Is Rodgers in shotgun and it's a spread formation? Not exactly. Jonnu Smith was actually in the backfield in this personnel grouping. You also have DK Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and Connor Hayward. That is a lot of size and versatility out there, so I'm hoping we see this package in team periods in the days to come. Aaron Rodgers also talked about his excitement about this personnel package on the Pat McAfee Show today. And then they also showed off a quote-unquote unbalanced offensive line look at yesterday's walkthrough before the rain came in. And what that means is that, there's two tackles next to each other on the offensive line. So it kind of looks like this. You got Fautano on the end. You had Calvin Anderson on the inside of him. And then you had Spencer Anderson, your normal left guard there. You had Frazier snapping the football at center. And then you had Mason McCormick as a guard. And then you had Darnell Washington, a tight end, kind of in that other traditional tackle spot. So very unconventional here. Definitely a heavy-handed kind of look from Arthur Smith that I would love to see be implemented at some point this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And then I do have some special teams notes today. They did do quite a bit of special teams work, kicks, punts, that sort of thing. And Chris Boswell, to this point, both when I was in Latrobe and at today's practice, he has not missed a kick in camp so far. He was drilling field goals from easily past 50 yards plus today. He still looks like the best kicker in football, and it's not even close in my opinion. And then Danny Smith, on his interview with the Pat McAfee Show today, said that Cameron Johnson and Corliss Waitman are in a true punter competition. He made it sound like it's really close and it's going to come down to the wire. Personally, I think Cam Johnson is going to get that job, and Corliss will have to get a job elsewhere, unfortunately. But I'm definitely excited to see that these two guys are both doing well in camp to this point. And then we'll get into the practice itself here, starting with 7 shots, which was won by the offense for the second time in camp. The Steelers' offense versus the defense is now tied 2-2 in camp so far, and here was the results of 7 shots today. The first play was a Jaylen Warren touchdown run up the middle, some nice leg drive from J-Dub there, and then Deshaun Elliott had a nice PBU on the second play there. So Elliott with yet another PBU. He's had a fantastic camp. And then Aaron Rodgers had a sidearm touchdown throw, a nice step up in the pocket there in the third play to hit Jonnu Smith on a slant. Then Mason Rudolph threw it to Brandon Johnson for a touchdown on the fourth play. Malik Harrison stuffed Caleb Johnson at the goal line for the fifth play there. Then the third team defense was able to stuff the offense there for the third team unit there. And then Rodgers threw a touchdown pass to DK Metcalf on a play action concept on the final play to take home the win. Offense wins 4-3. Then they went to backs on backers, and this is what every Steelers fan loves every single year. It's Mike Tomlin's favorite drill, where you got the running backs going up against the linebackers, and today the linebackers won that matchup. You guys can take a look at some of the matchups and who won them. Jaylen Warren was able to win versus Patrick Queen, but Devin Harper was the one that was actually able to get 2 wins on Jaylen Warren. So good on Harper there to make a name for himself today. But then Malik Harrison took Caleb Johnson to school. Johnson, not a lot of experience in pass protection, and Harrison's, he's a physical guy, man. And he was 3-0 versus Caleb Johnson in that drill today. Peyton Wilson ran over Kenneth Gainwell in one of the wow moments of the day. Cole Holcomb similarly did a really good job on Trey Sermon today. And then Mark Robinson throughout the practice today, guys, brought the boom. Robinson isn't the biggest guy in the world, but he is physical. He is not afraid to put his face in the fan. And there's a lot of people that are doubting Robinson, keeping him off their roster projections for the Steelers this year. But his special teams contributions and his ability to just put his face in the fan is certainly something that Mike Tomlin appreciates. Another practice note here is that it was an up and down day for Caleb Johnson, all right? And there was some very high highs and some pretty low lows. Specifically, to start the day, it wasn't great for Caleb. He got stuffed at the goal line during 7 shots. He fumbled the football. Deshaun Elliott, by the way, forced a fumble. Elliott had a fantastic day yet again today. And then Johnson had a couple TFLs early in the run period as well. However, when the day was starting to kind of wind down, he had some big-time runs where he broke away with some big gains, showed showed off some really good patience and vision, and of course we know the speed that he brings to the table as well. Even though he had the fumble, even though he did get brought down for a couple of TFLs today, he probably had the most explosive runs on the day, so a pretty decent day for Caleb Johnson overall. Another young player that had a good day today was Troy Fautanu, the second-year offensive tackle, first-round pick out of Washington, and it was his best day of camp yet. All right, we were hoping that once the pads went on for this young man, he was able to really show out, and he was going mano-a-mano versus TJ Watt, arguably the best pass rusher in the world for most of the afternoon, and he was stonewalling him, all right? During the one-on-one period today, the blocking drill, he was 2 for 2 in wins versus TJ Watt, handled him pretty well, and he was also fantastic as a run blocker, creating some run lanes for Caleb Johnson to exploit later on in the practice. So really good job by the first-round pick, hoping to break out here in year 2. Also, some more practice notes here. The run defense absolutely suffocated the Steelers' run game today for the most part. Caleb Johnson was able to break away on some nice runs towards the end of the period, but especially early in team periods today, the defense was absolutely stifling. Multiple TFLs. Joey Porter Jr. Got some nice tackles out there as well. In run support. So really good stuff to see from that run defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was really a liability for them against specifically the Baltimore Ravens last year, as you guys will remember. I don't think that's going to be an issue for this defense this year. But then, on the other hand there, you look at the passing game offense, it's still catching up very clearly to the Steelers defense. All right, now to the credit of the defense, they're not really giving Rodgers a whole lot of opportunities to throw the ball down the field. The pass rush is getting home, and the coverage is really good on the back end. They look like the best defense in football, but just in general, man, the pass game looks a little discombobulated, and it's more than just Rodgers, guys. Zach Frazier had his 5th straight practice with a low snap of some variety. Now, it didn't get away. It wasn't a turnover. Rodgers was able to pick up the football and make a short completion to Pat Freiermuth, but that's 5 practices in a row here where Frazier has put the ball either close to or on the ground after the snap, which is unacceptable. He needs to really clean that up. He was taking extra snaps after practice to hopefully clean that up heading into tomorrow's practice. But then Aaron Rodgers has been part of the issue, guys. He really has been. Now, he's also been part of the solution. He's been very good during the 7 shots goal line periods. He's had some really nice no-look passes underneath. The arm talent is very clearly still there, but the accuracy has been a bit inconsistent. In fact, it's one of the things that has been consistent about his game over these 5 practices here is that he has been consistently inconsistent with his accuracy, particularly throwing the ball down the field. And I think it's a combination of miscommunications and lack of chemistry with his receivers that he's still working to build on, but also some of it is just pure inaccuracy. He's just not putting the ball where he wants. So hopefully Rodgers is going to be able to figure that out as camp goes on, as we get closer to the season. But I don't want to let the receivers off the hook either today. DK Metcalf had a drop today. Jonnu Smith had 2 drops. It's not like it's all on Rodgers here, guys. But the accuracy certainly is an element to Rodgers' game that is going to have to get better as we get closer to the season. But some positive notes in the passing game today, guys. Calvin Austin III was showing off the wheels and the route running today. He was unguardable in the one-on-ones versus the cornerbacks today. He had a long touchdown versus Darius Slay and a clip that's going viral on Steelers Twitter right now. Absolutely unguardable. It was Calvin Austin III's best day in practice thus far, so that is great to see from number 19. It was also Roman Wilson's best day. Now, something to keep in mind here is that Roman was playing more with the second-team offense today. His 2 catches during team periods was with the second-team offense with Mason Rudolph throwing him the football. So I think he might only have 1 or 2 catches in the entire camp to this point from Aaron Rodgers, and all of them were underneath routes. So obviously Roman and Rodgers are still trying to get on the same page, and the person that was taking a lot of those first-team reps from him today was none other than Robert Woods. Bobby Trees got more run with the first-team offense today because of his acumen as a run-blocking wide receiver. Of course, even going back to his Los Angeles Rams days, he's been a really good run blocker, and that's one of the reasons why the Steelers brought him in. And I thought that Robert Woods with the first-team team offense today looked better than what Roman Wilson was able to show with the ones earlier on in camp. All right, like Robert bringing the physicality as a run blocker, but he also had a really nice catch on an Aaron Rodgers throw today on an intermediate route, which was one of the more impressive offensive passing snaps of the entire camp. So Robert Woods was definitely a big winner for me today on offense. But I think the biggest winners of the day, first up, Joey Porter Jr. is an absolute menace, guys. He's looking like a superstar lockdown corner out there. And when you combine him with Jalen Ramsey and then Darius Slay as your number 3 best corner, this has the potential to be one of the best cornerback rooms in the National Football League. As we know, Joey's had a little bit of an issue grabbing and having DPIs and holdings. That's not happening this year in camp, guys. We've seen Joey Porter Jr. lock down legit number 1 wide receiver talent in this league before, and if he can clean up some of those penalties, and it looks like he has, he's got a chance to be a true lockdown player. And then on top of that, he had multiple TFLs in the run game today. His long arms, his physicality. You look at Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Ramsey, and that might be the best run-defending cornerback duo in the National Football League this year, and that's not an understatement, which, of course, is going to be big news against the Baltimore Ravens this year. And then we'll get to Nick Herbig here, who really had a fantastic day going up against first-team left tackle Calvin Anderson, who was up and down, but he was up and down because of how dominant Nick Herbig was on that side of the pass rush. He had a number of pass rush wins today, and he definitely lives up to that best rotational pass rusher mantle that Steelers fans place on him, and he absolutely is that, man. His pass rush win rate is absolutely insane. He's got a really great speed rush to really challenge people to the outside, and he's got a bunch of great counters as well. His offseason workout plan with TJ Watt, you can tell, has really paid dividends for him in his NFL career. And today, that was on full display in the first padded practice, so good on Nick Herbig. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors, guys. But we got in-depth Steelers practice reports, just like today's, every single day on this channel. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive and premium Steelers training camp coverage all throughout the time in Latrobe this year.